I don't know, that's why you might have a long day.
It's gonna be a lot.
It's gonna be a lot of bloopers.
I'm just gonna start filming you.
Do 1 minute segments with David, all right, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. Hey, what's up?
Morning.
Many of you have met
I can tell.
David and Arthur Maritroso.
I met David.
And you've probably seen them in Bold or at the New England regional events, or whether it's at Mega Camp or Family Reunion. David and Arthur, they'll tell you a little bit about who they are and go through that, but they are out of our Andover office, and we're agents that come to Andover. How long ago did you move to Andover?
I think we're with Keller Williams Andover, going on 11 years.
11 years.
Yep.
And where their business, where it's come from and what it's done has been amazing. And what they've done on investments, and they're very focused on their investments. And they'll talk about what they're looking for in investments, how they got started in investments, and really you can see it's they're normal people. Okay, that's one of the things I think these
We're
are
actually not.
these are
normal.
normal, and you'll figure that out too. But these are normal homegrown people that wanted to do this, and it's not like they came from money. And they've done this and done a wonderful job and now have a portfolio. You have $3 million in your portfolio?
Yep.
Right now?
Yep.
And so, and started doing that. When did you start investing? 18?
2021 was our first true
21?
investment property. Yep.
Okay, so why don't you both introduce yourselves? A little bit about yourselves, how long you've been in the business, what you've done, and
Hi, everybody. I'm Arthur. This is my brother David. We started in real estate in 2009, and we slowly built the business from scratch on expired listings, for sale by owners, cold calling, everything that everybody used to teach, but it doesn't happen as much anymore. So we slowly built up our business, and now a lot of it comes by referrals. When we started working with investors, we learned based on what they do. We had investors that had 300-unit portfolios, and we got to work for them. And I always say you get to learn for free. But really, you get paid to learn, right? Because we get commissions. One guy we sold over $10 million worth of property for, and I got to learn and see everything that he does. So we were in real estate probably over 10 years before we bought our first true investment property. And then after that, I would say within the last 5 years, since 2021, 4 years, we've done 13 transactions. That's buy and sell. We flip and we invest as well. And then I pretty much said everything, so David has nothing to say now.
you also have property management that you've gotten into because Ron Fredette got you into that through coaching, but.
Yeah, we'll let David give him a little something, so you can talk a little.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. So we never owned real estate prior. I personally never owned anything prior till 2019. I was in business since 2009. When my son was born, we got into it for freedom and all this fun stuff. Well, I just wanted everything I got year 10 on year 1. We also immigrated to the United States. We are Armenian. We moved to Brighton, Mass when we were 9 years old and 7 years old. At that time, our mom passed from breast cancer. Our sister actually survived it. She is now in the business as well. So fairly humble beginnings, and now we have an investment portfolio that if something happened to one of us, and we're right around our 40s now, our kids would get 7 figures easily, and that's now, right? So we're still building. What we're going to try to do is just tell you how we did it. Keller Williams was the company that I always like to say we got rich in, and so much mentorship, like Mark, Ron Fredette, and all these other people. So we'll get into it. We'll try to share as much as we can. Obviously, it's like a 15-year journey, right? From the time we started working on our mindset to now to investing and actually making money, but we could go over that. Our business has grown, sales business. The highest was in 2021, which we did 46 million in volume. And the last couple of years, we do about 30 million.
And what was your volume in your first 5 years in the business, or your first 7 years, until you started to
The
take
first
off?
7 years in the business, we did not do more than 30 million in volume the whole 7 years. And our first year was like 0 deals, then 1. We had full-time jobs for the first 5 years. So like, we climbed that ladder, you know?
It's easy to double when you go from like 1 to 2. We went from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
So we always joke, but if you look at the actual spreadsheet, which we have it on, like if we've sold over 600 units, over $250 million worth of real estate, I would say 200 of that came in the last 5 years, which is insane if you think about it, right? Because we've been in business for 16 years.
Right, and it just started to take off once you guys, so what was it that kind of clicked in your brains where all of a sudden things started to move? Was there a specific moment or time or
Yeah.
something that happened with
I
the
think
two of you?
Yeah, I think we're a little slow, so it still didn't click yet. Bro. But one of the things, I think a pivotal moment in our career, both of our careers, where we always say we worked a full-time job and we were full-time in real estate. And at one point, we were like making good money, probably, we thought it was good money because we were broke. So it was about 7 million in volume, and we're like, dude, if we're doing 7 million, working 40 hours a week, then going to work for somebody else 40 hours a week, why don't we just get into real estate full-time? And that, I think, was about 2011 when I left my full-time job as a manager, front-end manager at Stop and Shop. And at that point, things just started to line up and it really snowballed. But prior to that, I mean, countless books, webinars, seminars. We went to every single seminar you ever probably heard of, read every book, listened to every podcast, and nothing was happening. So you're like, what's happening, right? But it was like a tree. We were planting roots. So when we went full-time, we really started to scale and go to the next level.
So you got to the first point where when you were ready to make your first investment in 2021. What did that look like? Tell us what you did. How did you finance it? How did you understand it? What were you looking for? What did it bring you? I know there's a lot of failures in there too, so you probably want to hit on a couple failures here and there.
Yeah.
We did speak about a couple failures the other day when we were talking about this.
All the failures were David's responsibility.
You'll find that out by the end of the hour. You'll understand it's David's fault.
So our first we bought condos, right? We were renters, then we got our condos. So our first true investment is a 4-family in North Andover that we own. We've owned it since 2021,
Yep.
so since 2021. We do the Gary Keller model for, like the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book, right? So 20% down. We also try to get our properties like 20% discount. So the property we bought was 1.2 million. We bought it for $1 million. We put down 20%. It spits out 11,000 a month. We probably keep about 5,000 a month. In about 20 years, that property will generate. It'll probably be a lot. Right now, it went up $500,000 in equity in the time that we bought it. And we've done a little bit of work to it. We renovated one of the units, but that's just one of our buildings. So it's only 4 doors and it's generating like over 1,000 a door. So it's easy, We do have a property management company that we started and we manage 27 units. And then we have another 3-family in Bedford. My brother can tell you about that one.
Yeah, so to David's point, just to let everybody know how we started, like where we got the cash. So after learning from a bunch of investors, what we did is I bought a condo in 2015, seller financing, so it was an interesting story. But he also bought a condo. And when we were finally ready to make an investment, we got home equity lines of credits on those condos. Plus all the money we saved from our business. So we were able to put 20% down on $1 million property. The first property we ever bought was $1 million, which was super scary, right? But we just went through it. The bank we used, they're like, we'll get, you guys seem hungry or motivated. Do you have experience? So you have to show them you have experience. Even though you don't have experience owning and managing real estate, you do, because you could say, I've worked with these investors and I've learned, and that is experience, being in real estate. So we bought our first property, and then that one, kind of took off. And after
Right away?
No, it took
No.
3 years
Okay,
to turn that place around.
so let's just go through that real quick.
Speaking of failure, right, By the way, it was also on MLS. Some people say never buy an MLS. This property was on MLS for a while. He lived in North Andover and the agent was an outside broker, not local. So we walked through the property, all the rents are $1,700 a unit. One is getting evicted. And the broker looks at us and be like, he was from like the Boston area and he's like, 1,700, that's all you could get out here. And at that time, I remember vividly, my brother kicks me in the shin. I was like,
Yeah, like I was tripping him. I'm like,
And he's
this
like-
guy's an
and I
idiot.
couldn't tell what he was saying, but he was saying we could get 2,500 all day for these units. So then we bought it and we literally, one unit was vacant, one was in the process of getting evicted. So we churned it around. And as we were churning it around, one tenant ended up being a 15-month eviction during COVID. So for 15 months, he didn't pay any rent. That's the discounted price, right? So we're getting 2,500 on all the units. He's only supposed to be paying 1,700. He's not paying. I'm super nice. I love everybody. Me and Mark talking about this. So I'm like, Dave, this guy will pay. He'll catch up. 3 months goes by. I'm like, he promised he's gonna catch up. So it's probably my fault. It took 15 months, but eventually we got him out. And I still call it the cost of doing business. If you can't handle that kind of stress, you might not be the best real estate investor. So you might want to do it passively. But for us, it was still worth it because that building is now worth $1.5 million, right? So we got appreciation, depreciation, we now get cash flow. But in the beginning, it wasn't cash flowing because you got a vacant unit and you have to renovate the other one, you have to get the price up. So that's was probably one of the biggest failures and the biggest setbacks, but we even got through that and got to the next level.
Was the person that you had to evict, was that someone that was already in the eviction process before you bought it? And would you do that differently now, or would it have held the sale up? Does everyone understand that? You say, all right, hey, get them out before we buy this place.
Yeah.
What would you do differently, if anything?
So we manage and own and operate about a 30-unit portfolio. And the only time we've had to evict tenants is ones that we have inherited. But also, when you buy a 4-unit building, if you want to get a great value, right, you have turnkey. Like I could buy a building, build it brand new, turnkey, doesn't need any work, and I'll sell it to you. You're going to pay a premium for that. If you want to get a discount, you have to do value add, and you have to take those tenants with them. Could we have screened them a little bit better? Yes, but at the end of the day, you can't predict that, and you can't have it delivered vacant if you're trying to get a great deal, right? So it's either, is the landlord going to take care of that headache, and I'm going to pay for it, or am I taking on that headache and I'm going to get a discount for it?
How did you ride that out, the 15 months without getting that, that rent with the other 3? Did they cover it?
Well,
Or were you under?
we just cried every day.
Upside down on that?
So the beautiful thing is if you buy real estate and you buy it right with 20% down and you getting a nice discount and you're buying 4 or more, I think for us, what we keep is 3 or more. If you have 3 or more, typically the first 2 should cover your mortgage.
Okay, that's what I
So
was
that means even
wondering.
if you have 1 vacancy or 2 vacancies, you should still be able to ride that out for 15 months or 24 months. So we weren't making money, but we weren't losing money. We
Okay,
weren't
that was
having to
my
come up out of pocket to hold that building.
What
And
was your interest rate back then too? I mean, if you had $1 million place, you put down 200,000, right?
Yeah.
So now you have 800,000 that you owe. What was the interest rate? 5%?
Just under 5.
So the nut is roughly 3,500 a month plus taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
So in that 5,000, that covers if the first 2 are in that 2,500, that makes sense.
Yeah, so exactly, you nailed the numbers. It's 5,500 for the mortgage, the first 2 pay for itself. And now the average rental in that building is close to like 2,800 on average. So we get 3,000, 2,900,
Those all 2-bedroom units?
all 3-bedroom townhouses. Yeah, we could sell them off as condos probably for 600 to 700 a piece.
How do you invest now? The rates are different.
Breaking from.
Say that again?
Interest rates are different now, not less than 4%.
So our goal when we started was to buy a property to hold every single year. from
Hold on,
20
can you say it louder? There's
Interest
people on
rate.
TV.
The interest rates
Oh, yeah.
for the new investments for now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so with the interest rates now, if we're buying real estate, so our goal was to we bought in 2021 a 4-unit, and we bought in 2022 a 3-unit in Medford. In 2023, we didn't buy anything because the interest rates were high. We bought, and instead we found a fix and flip opportunity. which David kind of runs and manages the fix and flip opportunities. So what we decided is we're gonna, anything that's a condo, single family, maybe even two family, we're gonna flip it, make cash, save that cash to buy our next investment deal, but be patient and look for our next investment deal. We tried to buy a 5-unit in North Andover, a 5-unit in Wilmington, we came super close to. Numbers didn't work, or they went with a higher offer, we let it go, so. We're always looking to buy, and we're always putting an offer, and if somebody wants to sell, we're gonna give them an offer. But if it doesn't come to fruition, we're patient.
You're okay walking away.
We're okay walking.
There's another question back here in the beginning that I saw a hand. Anything? It's okay. You're good.
Did I answer it? I'm a mind reader too, side hustle.
You said that you were managing your properties, before you were owning 27% and 27 units, right? By yourself?
Yep.
Managing by yourself. How
Yeah.
did you manage? You were working.
Yeah, so I always say, like, we love real estate. That's all we do is full-time real estate. So we have a podcast, we have a property management business, we sell homes, we flip homes, we have investment property. But to me, it's easy, like, that's all I do full-time. I could see if I had another full-time job, it might be hard, but I love it. We have help, like, virtual assistants and assistants. So for us, it's pretty easy. Plus, there's also two of us. Like, we just did a flip in Rosendale, a single-family flip. I literally stepped into that house maybe 5 times because my brother took care of everything. So
Yeah,
it makes it easy.
there's two of us and we both work, like, you know what I mean? We just take care
Well,
of
at
it.
that time, you were not working as a full-time, but 40
Oh, when
hours.
we weren't doing it full time? Like leaving our other businesses, is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
When you had your full-time job,
Yeah, so he was a front manager at Stop and Shop, and I was actually a hairdresser and a barber. I had both my licenses, and when I shaved my head, I was like, the hell is this?
So that's how
That was
come
pretty
he's
easy.
there,
Yeah.
because he takes care of the flips.
Yeah, so I think that in the beginning, you gotta think that was our first 5 years. We didn't sell more than 30 million of real estate. So in between my hair appointments, I would run in the back, take a call, like, yeah, I'll show it to you on Saturday at 12. And I'd run back out and the clients are probably like, where the hell is this guy, you know? But like, we just always did whatever we had to do.
They averaged about $5 million in sales, but that was split between the two of them.
Yeah.
So they're splitting two and a
Everything
half,
we
2.5 million, right?
Hey, you're
Right down
making
the
us
center.
sound worse than
Might as
we
well.
are.
No, no, you're bad. No, you did it on your own. Okay, and then so we have that first place, and then the next one.
I just want to touch base on this question too about property management. Ron Fredette, if you guys know him, he used to coach us and he told us to start a property management business, but we didn't start that till 5 years ago, so we were well into real estate full time. So we weren't doing that when we were in the beginning of the career.
You manage just your own properties or other clients' properties as well with that company?
So both, we were about, I would say a third is our own and a third all word of mouth, people that, investors. We had basically like investors that we sell properties to. They always asked us like, hey, can you manage it? Can you rent these units? Can you do this and that? And we used to refer them out, and when we realized it's like, you're referring out that relationship to people that buy and sell all the time. Because they want a one-stop shop solution. So that's kind of why we created the property management business. We don't market it, we don't advertise it. It's all like word of mouth referrals.
Sounds like you have 30 doors, 10 of them are yours.
Yep.
And 20 of them are other people's.
Yep.
Okay. So 4 doors is a 4-family, right? We all know that? Good. Okay. Next property, and then what was the method behind it, the reasoning behind it?
So the next property was a 3-family in Bedford. We bought it from this lady that I was actually trying to list the property 4 years before that. So I'd like call this lady every single month.
Is
Hey,
it FISBO or an expired or?
it was a referral from another client that bought a single family, and she was like, hey, this lady might want to sell this house. So for 4 years, I'm calling her, hey, Ruthie, it's Dave, and she, like, we had like 13 coffees at her house with no results. And 4 years, when I started talking to her, we couldn't afford that house even if we wanted to. So 4 years later now, we had a down payment of 20%. She wanted about $1 million. So we bought the property for $950,000. We gave her 20%. We actually let her stay in the house with her family because she had cancer and, you know, like our mom passed from that. So that was like super awesome for us to do. And then she was supposed to buy the next $1 million house with us and she didn't, so that's the real estate. But that building now is 3 units. We're gonna be working on putting the unit in the downstairs, making it a 4-unit. And that building does pretty well. It generates about the same as the other one, maybe like short $1,500.
When you look at buildings, one of the things, are you looking for a building that you can make from, turn from a 3-family to a 4-family? Is that something where you're focused on, or is it discount? I mean, what are your major focuses when
We're
you're looking?
looking for discount, we're looking to do work, right, a little bit of work. We don't want anything super extensive unless it's a renovation we're buying to flip, like the house in Boston. And we're just looking for a good deal. It has to be a good deal. So meaning if she was like, I want 1.1, we probably would not do that. But we got it for $950, and at that time, it was probably worth $1,050,000, and now it's about one and a half.
And it's cash flowing the same as,
Yeah, this one cash flowed faster than the other one because we already had a 4-family. And it took us 2 years to stabilize, so no money really. And then it started cash flowing. Now it's cash flowing absolutely beautiful. I always joke, like, if one of us dies, the other one can literally retire. So if we get 2 more equivalent, we can probably totally stop working. Which is why everybody should buy, right? It's really comfortable.
yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
With the equity that you've accumulated in building 1 and building 2, would you take that equity out and buy other buildings with it, or is that you're just leaving the equity in there?
We have a equity line of credit set up with our bank against both the properties, so we use that money to do flips and then put the money back. And as we accumulate more cash flow, we're always looking for deals. Like, we're putting offers on deals all the time.
And you have max credit lines on both of those properties?
Yeah, but we're gonna up it a little bit because they're worth more than we put in place a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, I get it. Ken,
Is that a commercial bank relationship? And which bank do you
Yep.
use?
So it's called the Savings Bank out of Wakefield. So they allow you to buy properties 20% down. And they have locations everywhere, Andover, et cetera. So it's commercial loans on all these properties. When you talk to investors and they buy 5 or more, they use commercial loans, but you could actually use a commercial loan to buy anything. And they're usually a 5 or 10-year term, amortized over 25 years.
They're looking at your business more so rather than the asset, like if it were a
They look at,
family or 2-family.
yeah, they look at your experience, your financial picture, like, are you an established investor? And then also the buildings to make sure that they will perform. Like, what's your plan for the building? What are you gonna do? That's what they're looking. And some challenges about Medford, which my brother was talking about, because, it's never easy. So number one thing is listening, right? We all go on listing appointments all the time. And 20% of sellers are gonna be cash sellers, like they wanna sell. So this lady owed back taxes. She had her family living in the whole building pretty much, right? And they couldn't buy a house without getting the cash. So we didn't realize that for 4 years. We're like, why won't she list with us? Because she owns back taxes and she needs a place to stay and she needs the cash to buy her next house. Couldn't prepare it to get it ready to list, couldn't do none of the things. And when we realized that, we crafted an offer that made sense for her. We said, hey, this is what we'll give you, but you could stay in this property for, I think we told her like 6 months or whatever, and she went like 3 months over. So now, but she's occupying both the units, right? So we rented out one and it was not cash flowing. When we buy a property, typically we'll put like $50,000 or whatever the commissions are or the closing costs into a separate account. So that one, we had to float from that money. So it was going down, down, down. We're like, we're gonna have to start charging you rent. So I remember I picked up rent for her. I'm like, you've already been here. Like, it was either 3 or 6 month mark. I'm like, I can't pay my mortgage. So I picked up rent for her. She gave me like all this money in cash. It was funny. But she got a great deal. She literally lived for free for like over 6 months. But that was a struggle to keep that afloat. So if you're buying value add opportunities, you want to make sure you have the cash to be able to carry them, right? Because long term, we know they're all going to make money and you're probably going to be able to turn it around. But in the short term, you're going to have to bleed some cash if you're buying it, while you're making the rents go up and renovating it.
How long do you usually give that cash reserve, like account? How many months, like
Yeah.
at least 6, 12, like what do you factor?
We've typically, we put about 50 grand into it, so I don't know, that's the number we used, yeah.
The number not based on.
Yeah.
But we also don't spend a lot of our money that we make. We're very frugal, so anytime we sell these houses and we get these commissions, we're basically stocking it up together in one account. And usually when it sits around 200, we'll go buy a building.
What would be the purpose of doing commercial loan on a residential building, on a 3-family or 4-family?
There's many reasons you would do that. The biggest one is, on a residential mortgage, you usually can't put them in an LLC. In the commercial line, they encourage that. So it gives you that limited liability protection. So that's the biggest and most important. It's also, they usually allow you to put less down and they're more flexible with terms. Meaning like if we go, most of us, if we go buy a multifamily right now, you need to put 25% down as a true investor. They'll give you 15 or 20% down. In some cases, they'll work with you and they give you 3 to 6 months interest only while you bring the building up. So like in the beginning, the mortgage wasn't $5 grand, but the first 3 months was like $3 grand. So we're, those additional benefits are huge.
Absolutely.
And then the negative is like, we haven't had to do this yet, but in the first 5 years, you have to renegotiate, right? You don't have to refinance like residential, but they might hit us up and say, hey, the rate's going up.
Okay, so what's the plan now moving forward? Now you've got 10 doors, you want to keep growing, you've got property, you're selling real estate, you've got property management, you've got investors, you're doing flips,
Yeah, so we
you got a
also,
podcast.
yeah, we're doing a lot. We also have obviously flips that we've done really well on, made 6 figures on quite a few of them now. So that's a thing we're kind of turning the turbo on, partially because we have the money that we saved, so that, we're using the money to, money makes money, right? That's what you gotta get to. You gotta get to a point where you have enough so that you can rotate it safely and make it grow. So our goal is to continue to do that with long-term investments. And then with the flips, we got screwed over early in our career by investors that promised us the listing back and things like that. And weirdly enough, by the time that came around, we didn't get it. So now we're on this mission to kind of help realtors and make sure they get paid and get treated right if they bring us these deals. And then also, obviously, renovating houses is a good thing. It makes money, and if you do it right. We're very safe with those investments as well, simply because in 2009 and 10 and 11, when we were just the agents for a lot of these investors, we've seen people lose like 150,000, 200,000 of their life savings at 52 years old. We've seen houses get renovated and not sell. So while it's all good, you also have to be so careful, right? Because you can't lose 200,000 2 times, never mind 1 time, right? So, and then just grow, I guess. Right?
Yeah, our goal is everything we do generates cash and our goal is to buy more real estate. We don't take outsider capital, so we just do all our own deals. But we're looking to partner with more real estate agents and just educate people on how to get investments, because less than 1% of real estate agents actually involve real estate actively. They're not investing in real estate because I don't know why. We don't know how. And we didn't either, right? So you gotta learn. But all of us get the deals first, so we should be real estate investors and we want to educate people and in some ways partner with them, right? If you bring us a deal, you're gonna get the listing back or whatever. You could get involved in many different ways. All the money we make from real estate sales and building the team and property management, our goal for that is to get to 100 doors. So just keep buying real estate deals. So if anybody knows a good multifamily, send it to us. If we buy it, you get paid.
And are you doing it just in Massachusetts or are you looking anywhere else?
So right now, we're strictly focused in Massachusetts because we manage all our own stuff and we want to be able to touch it, see it, control it. But as we grow, and you were talking about just opportunities in Massachusetts are very difficult. The prices are high and they're staying high, and the interest rates are also staying super high. So we'll probably have to at some point expand to other states where the numbers make more sense. And I had somebody on our call, Jim Black, he does about 200 sales a year, and he was saying the same thing. Last couple of years, he didn't buy anything. Last couple of years, we didn't buy anything. And that's because like, you can't buy something and lose money. You have to buy it and make money.
Are you opposed to going outside of New England?
No,
No, we're not. We actually look at deals everywhere. We just haven't gotten to buying them yet.
Barbara or Sam?
Do you have a specific ROI that you'd like to see when someone brings you a deal?
so we're looking to do something where we're gonna get equity by doing appreciation. So that's the biggest thing, right? Like if the building's worth 1.2, we could get it for $1 million, but it needs work and updates and we have to increase the rents. That's really what we're looking for. In terms of ROI, we look at right, like how much money we make a door, and the minimum we want is $500 cash flow per door.
That was my question, how much per door?
Yeah, so we try to
That's a good number. That's
So 500 per door per month.
500 per door per month. Yep. Right
Otherwise,
now,
it's not worth it.
if you do the math right now on the stuff that we bought, we make $1,000 a door a month.
Yeah, that's, I have five doors, I have two duplexes and a condo, and I make about 800 a month on each.
So see, because when you buy it right and you buy it a long time ago with a great interest rate, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah,
But now, you know, those numbers might be looking like 0 or 100 or 200 a door. It doesn't make sense for us because we make that on the property management side, right? So on property management, you might make 250 a door. But on stuff you own, you gotta get at least 500 a door. Because unexpected issues will arise, and I'm an optimist, so I don't plan for this, but like, they always stay longer than they say they will. If you think it's gonna take you a year to turn it around, it's gonna take you 2. So all of these issues you have to account for. That's what my brother's here for. He keeps me humble.
It always takes longer than you think, you know, we're all hopeful, but it always takes longer than you think to. The timelines get extended, you know, and you just have to plan for that.
Well, you look at the doors too. If you have 3 doors and you're making $500 a door, that's $1,500 or $18,000 a year. You can have $18,000 go wrong with your building in a year. So you want to
Yes,
make
I do.
sure that you're getting that income, right?
Yep.
There's a couple, I see,
On
I'm sorry, David,
No, go ahead.
then Joe. Yep.
On the flip side of things, like what are you usually looking for an ROI on that? Obviously, you gotta get a good price for the work needed and things. Like, what are you trying to usually make on your flips?
We're looking to make about 50 grand a deal.
50 grand.
But I'll let David talk about the flips because he kind of handles all of that.
Yeah, we always talk about like, you know, I could sell a multi-million-dollar house and probably get 50 grand, right? So, and that would in theory be easier. So we think probably nothing less than that because there's time constraints, money constraints, and profit moves up and down. You just never know. So far, we've been able to double that on the deals we've been doing. The thing that makes us a little bit different is we've been in real estate business. So we don't think like contractors, we think like agents. And usually agents know what'll sell the property and like what buyers actually want. That sometimes builders think something different, you know? So we basically, it depends on what the property would need, you know? Sometimes we're okay with buying a property, doing a little cleanup. We're okay with, like the one I just did was a complete gut, is a really extensive renovation. So it's very property specific in our mind, you know what I mean?
But that's got a 50K after all expenses, capital
Yeah,
gains
yeah.
and things there. Yeah.
Commissions for agents, everything, yep.
Yeah, and if anybody brings us a deal and wants us to evaluate one, we'll give you the listing back and you also get to represent us as the buyer on the front end. So if you have an opportunity, if somebody wants to sell cash, 20% of like people in the market want to sell cash for one reason or another.
Joe, and then Deb.
So just my own personal opinion as their 500 adult, their need for 500 a door is their personal opinion. So my investments, I do not make 500 a door. I look at it this way, the tenants are buying me a building. So like the last one I bought, I'm already up $200,000 in equity that I did not put a penny into. That it's just the natural course of the increase in value, plus every penny that my tenants pay, I pay to the mortgage and pay down the principal as fast as possible. So again, they're in Massachusetts, they can command higher rents than we can here in New Hampshire. Plus with the way that the market is in insurance, interest rates, it's not a bad thing. You don't necessarily have to make 500 a door. You know what I mean? That's gonna be subjective per property and per you as an individual on what you wanna think. That's just their mark, okay?
Yeah.
So I just want you guys to know that that's not a hard and steadfast rule.
Yeah, and I agree. At scale, of course, you can get more units and maybe make less on some units, and you should, because the appreciation is really what we're getting after.
Right.
But I think, just don't forget, the first 2 years, it was like 0 a door, right?
Well, and the thing too,
500 a door is like the good part.
yeah, the thing too is the building I'm speaking about that I own. Both of them, it's a two-family. The tenants that I'm talking about have all been there for more than 10 years. So I'm way below market rent, and it's way below market rent. But it's on purpose. I don't have to get a new tenant. They pay me before the first every month. Both tenants do. So it's one tenant acts as the property manager and I don't pay him. So, you know, for me, again, I'm taking, it's a different scenario for this specific building for me. That's what I'm saying is that's their gig right now, but you guys, there's a lot of other opportunities that you can take buying buildings. Doesn't have to make 500 a door. That's all I want to get across.
And the flip's the same thing, you know, 50 a door, 50 at a flip is just our model. Some guys wanna make 150, they won't even look at it, and some people will do it, lose money.
It's a learning process.
And one of the things I wanted to actually touch base on what he said, real estate's one of the greatest investments, and I never realized it until I owned it. And here's why. You can put appreciation, which you mentioned, right? So you could buy with 0 a door and you're still gonna get appreciation. Those buildings we spent $1 million on are worth 1.5. Depreciation, I'm not an accountant, but I got my degree in accounting and finance. The tax benefits are amazing. And that's why some people who own a ton of real estate don't pay any taxes, okay? Cash flow, which what we were talking about, whatever number you want to make in cash flow is good for you. And one of the best ones, which you also mentioned, which I love, is debt pay down, right? Every month, the tenants are paying down your debt. So we literally look at the mortgage statement every month and we plug it into our little Excel spreadsheet, and I'm like, wow, we used to owe $750 on this building and now it's like $700. But I never made a payment out of my pocket to reduce that debt. The tenants did. Now, add those 4 factors to work together and it's like skyrockets, right? So you can pick any one of those 4 that you like. You know, I've heard of people making no money on cash flow for years. Like this lady was buying in Chelsea. She's making 0. She's like, I had to work 2 jobs to keep my properties. But now she lives in Costa Rica 6 months out of the year. You know what I mean? So if you're playing the long game and you're patient, you know, you could win with real estate because you have so many benefits.
So looking at different, I have a client that wants to buy multifamily, like Lowell area, like going towards Boston, but he only wants to spend $500,000. What advice can you give him instead of saying SOL, dude? But I mean, that's what he's looking at.
He's
I mean,
looking to
what-
buy a multi-family.
He's looking to buy a multifamily, like Lowell area, yeah, about
That's not a
500,000.
fixer-upper.
That's not a fixer
There's
upper.
one on the market. No, there's one on the market right now. That's a 3-bed, 1 unit. It's a 3-1 and a 1-1. And I think I looked at it, it was like $579.
Yeah, he doesn't want to budge over
Then
500.
I would say you show them stuff, you send them stuff and you say, hey, this is what the market is in Lowell. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys probably know better than me. Around here, there's plenty of places where you can find a multifamily for 500. You'll just have to go to a different location.
Yeah, I was just wondering
Or
what
increase-
advice to give him, you know,
or
because he wants to
increase
live
the
in one half and,
Is
you know,
is the
rent the
owner
other.
occupying?
Excuse me?
Is the owner occupying or?
He's gonna owner occupy.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard to find. I did the same thing I do with all my buyers, just educate them, show them the inventory, show them what's there, you know, and they can either come up on price. They're gonna realize it themselves. You either have to come up on price or extend your area.
I'm just curious what the interest rate on the 2 current commercial loans you have.
Like 4.25 and 4.5.
And you got those in 21 and
And
22.
22. Yep.
So commercial loans, are they generally around
They actually,
same as
they
residential?
actually fluctuate, but on average, sometimes it's like a point higher. But with all the craziness in interest rates, I've seen them actually be the same or lower than our residential mortgage,
So
so they
those are never fixed interest rates through the loan?
not on
We have to
commercial.
renegotiate them 5 years.
Yeah, it's a 5 or 10-year term. Yeah, it's not a 30-year fixed. So that's why a lot of commercial buildings, when the term is up, you see people 1031 exchange. And when they're run out of depreciation, which is 27.5 years, unless you do the fast version, they sell and they do a 1031 exchange to buy something else. So these buildings, people are always trading up.
You said you did a seller finance on your first condo?
Yep.
How did you find that deal?
For sale by owner. And we used to call like crazy. We used to have two laptops back to back in the office. When we were working at Century 21, they used to make fun of us, like, what are you guys playing Battleship in there? 4 hours a day, we would just call, literally back to back with the old school phone dialing. So my thumb is like so little now.
They pounded the phones. They both did. And I remember we were talking about it the other day, and I remember being down in Florida, pacing back and forth, trying to figure out what was going on with these two, because they really, they had great scripts and they made the phone calls, and they just need to put more effort into it. And so I remember us having that conversation, and we're like, okay, we'll just do it for longer than what we're currently doing. And they started doing it longer, and next thing you know, everything just started to transpire, and it was really in your real estate business started to take off.
Yeah, our real estate
That's really what.
business funded all of this, and we built that business by calling expireds, calling FISBOs, all the things people tell you to do. So we actually did it, you know, and we did it for a very long time. Probably don't do it as much now, but we're still always on the phones, always following up with people. But a lot of those initial for sale by owners and expireds turned to do business with us like 5 and 6 times over, so. Which now big portion of our business is SOI.
One of the questions I had, and maybe lost in translation, but when did you guys really start turning on the afterburners for working hard and making this, all right, this is when we're gonna start dedicating our lives to our business lives to real estate?
Yeah,
What year was that?
one time I was talking to this guy named Mark, and I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'm not getting any results. And he goes, how many hours are you working? And I've been to all of my son's games, you know, like the cool thing about this is we both have really good family lives. Like we hang out together, we do stuff together. And this guy, Mark, is like, hey, how many hours you working? I want you to write down how many hours you working. I'm like, dude, I work like 120 hours. Are you crazy? And so then I did, and it was like 15 hours. So he tells me, hey, why don't you work more? I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I did, and it actually turned out pretty good.
But it's very been less than 10 years, right? That wasn't 10 years ago.
Maybe 7 years. Something like that.
The point that I want to get across is, look at what they've done in such a short time, you know? And by the way, they weren't successful last year, and that's why they're here. They've been successful over the last X amount of years, and that's why they're here. So, you know, they've made really good money. You guys have done an amazing job. You know, once you dedicated yourselves to this, it took off. And again, I want to hit though, you're not working 70 hours a week or 80 hours a week, right? You're really even thinking about real estate a lot of hours. But the amount of time that you're hitting the pavement isn't quite, you know, isn't crazy hours that people would think kind of getting into this business.
Yeah, we both have good lives, and we hang out with our families and we do all the things.
We have 3 minutes left, and so I want to make sure we use the time wisely with these guys. Questions? I know you've had a lot of questions. Who else has something that's burning a hole in your brain? Minute.
No, I was just waving to David.
We were just talking at mastermind.
Like no flirt.
I think everybody's brains are now spinning and thinking, which is exactly the whole purpose of this. Pretty cool that we have so many people here again. This is our third or fourth? Third, and it just keeps on growing. And this is exactly, we want you all to have the weapons to use because you have so much in place. Kind of like you said, we had real estate already. None of it, we're stupid not to use what we have right there. And you guys are a great example of that.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions that come up after you want to ask privately, we're an open book, you know, a lot of people in this company pour into you, which is, you know, why we're still here. And the network is absolutely amazing. And we have people way above us that like gave us their time and energy. So if anybody wants to ask any questions privately or about anything specific that you might think about after, you could just ask Mark for our cell phone numbers and just text us. We'll probably reply.
David and Arthur are well in culture. You can pick up the phone and call them. Mike?
Just a quick question on property management companies, like if you get a multi, is there a certain amount of units you have before you need a property management, or is it kind of more like how much work you want to do?
Are
Or,
you talking about individual?
well, if you get a multi, like if I'm looking at a 3 versus like a 10, like is there a certain number
When you should hire a property
you
manager?
should hire a property manager?
That's a great question. So I think for most people, like we manage like individual condos, multis, 2-family, 3 families. So for some people, they like to manage their own, right? So if you do, you might get to 10, and if you have a full-time job, at that point, you're gonna need property management. And some people are great, they have their own full-time job. I have a client who's literally in the market right now, we've done 5 transactions together, he's buying a $3.5 million home. Currently, right? But all he does is his job, just some kind of engineering, I have no idea what he does. After 5 transactions, I just know he keeps buying houses. But the first condo he had, he let us manage. So he's like, I'm gonna do my job. So he's completely a passive real estate investor after 1 condo. And now I think he's up to like maybe 5. So it really depends on you, but I would say you could start with 1. If it's only, on average, it's 10% of the gross rent. So if the numbers make sense and you're still cash flowing, that means we act as the landlord on your behalf. So the tenants call us, we get the tenants in place, we fix the issues, and we pay, you know, like we pay all the bills. So you become a passive investor.
My advice when it comes to that is, once it affects your personal life, once, if I had a multifamily and once my marriage started being affected, then I would bring in a property manager.
Yeah, it's good for
right.
my personal life because my wife loves it when I'm not home.
Yeah, we can understand why now. That you've mentioned it. Right.
At the very beginning, you mentioned mindset. Is there any key attitude or approach that you would say is powering your success?
Be learning based. The year we did 46 million and grew the most, we literally shadowed 1 mega agent every single month. We went to their office, we had lunch with them, we watched what they do, we went to their team meetings, we did everything. And I was shocked at how generous people are and how willing they are to share. Like I texted somebody who sells 500 homes a year and he literally replied back right away. He's like, what do you want? What are you doing? Call me. I was like, okay. So I call him like, hey, we do this thing where we shadow him. I'm explaining my little spiel. He's like, just come down. When do you want to come down? Thursday? I'm like, wow. And this guy's doing so much real estate and he didn't know me. Like we're friends now, but he didn't know me at all. And we probably went up there like 5 times, 6 times. So just be learning based. And if you're learning, you have to reach out to people, right? To be in their world. Like nobody's gonna knock on your door and say, hey, get out of bed, let's make you successful. But if you reach out to them, they're gonna tell you everything you need to know. You might get rejected once or twice, but you guys are all in real estate, so you have to have thick skin.
Yeah, we also read a lot of books. We go to a lot of seminars, listen to a lot of podcasts. We've done the Tony Robbins Walk on Fire. We broke some arrow with our necks, like just do all the stupid things, you know, like punch the wood, whatever. I think that the way we think is you probably retain more, but to myself, I like to think I only retain like 2%. So how many of these 2% things can I stack up? And if you met us, let's say 15 years ago, we're completely different. And if you met us 10 years ago, we're completely different. And 10 years from now, we're probably going to be even more elevated. So I think just like that mindset, be in the room where people are trying to get better, you know? And I think that it's kind of worked out for us, you know what I mean? Because I do have friends that didn't do any of these seminars and didn't go to any of these things. And it looks like they are the same as we were 15 years ago. So just keep going, because you never know it, like a little bit, you're higher than you've ever been.
We have lunch. Blue Water, Joe brought in lunch, so we have lunch for everyone. We want you to stay and mingle with each other, and David and Arthur, can you guys stay for a few minutes?
Yes.
It didn't sound very secure.
I gotta check the schedule.
But they're around, let's thank them, was this helpful? Joy.
Never know. And family downtown, man.
Oh, that's a lot.